You know you shouldn't touch it. The scab, the pimple, the dry skin at the edge of your nail, the thing inside your nose. You know it's there. You know it's gross. You know you should leave it alone. And somehow your hand is already moving. That is not a bad habit. That is not weakness. That is an ancient cleaning program running in the wrong century. And once you understand what it was actually built to do, you will never look at your own hands the same way again. Here's what most people assume. Picking at your body is a quirk, a nervous habit, something to be embarrassed about and eventually grow out of. Most people never fully lose the impulse. They just learn when to hide it. Most people know the feeling. A scab, a nail, a piece of dry skin, a pimple they know they should leave alone. These small, habitual grooming gestures are extraordinarily common. For a smaller group, the behavior becomes more intense, harder to control, and begins to cause real damage or distress. That clinical version is what researchers call a body-focused repetitive behavior, or BFRB. But the seed of it is in almost everyone, and that seed is millions of years old. Here's the first thing that lands immediately. Your body is covered in things that don't belong there. Dead skin, particles, dried material, irregularities in the surface. Small imperfections that catch the fingertip, signal something is there, and send a message upward to the brain. And the brain, the moment it receives that signal, does something that it has been doing for tens of millions of years. It sends back, remove it. This is grooming. And grooming is not uniquely human. It is one of the most ancient and widespread behaviors in the animal kingdom. Primates spend extraordinary amounts of time grooming, not just themselves, but each other. A chimpanzee colony will spend hours every day picking through fur, removing parasites, clearing debris from skin. Baboons, macaques, gorillas. The behavior is consistent across species, consistent across environments, and extraordinarily persistent. Because grooming is not just hygiene, it is survival. A parasite left on the skin can cause infection. A wound left uncleaned can become septic. A scab that traps debris underneath it can turn into something worse. For most of evolutionary history, the impulse to find an irregularity on the body surface and remove it was not a compulsion. It was a correct response. Your fingers are running the same program. Here's the part that makes it strange. In 2013, researchers Catherine Crockford and Roman Wittig at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology studied wild chimpanzees in Uganda. They found that when chimpanzees groomed each other, oxytocin levels rose significantly. The effect was strongest between bonded partners, regardless of whether those partners were related. In primates, grooming can be linked to bonding chemistry. Humans are not chimpanzees. But the deeper point matters. Grooming was never just cleaning. It was also rewarding. The body learned to enjoy removing things from skin, not just because it was useful, but because the brain made it feel good to do it. That reward system is still in you. Every time you squeeze a pimple and feel that brief satisfaction. Every time you peel a piece of dry skin and feel something release. Every time your fingers find the edge of a scab and there is a moment, just a moment, of something that is almost pleasant before the guilt arrives. In its mild form, that is not automatically dysfunction. But when the loop becomes painful, damaging, or impossible to stop, the same ancient system can become a real disorder. Here's the part that breaks the simple story. If this were purely about cleanliness, the behavior would stop when the thing was removed. But often it doesn't. You pick the scab and create a new irregularity. You scratch the spot and produce a new texture that the fingertip notices. You squeeze the pimple and leave a mark that your skin registers as something to investigate. The cleaning behavior generates new material to clean. And the brain, which was built in an environment where that loop made sense, where there were always more parasites, always more debris, always more surface irregularities to remove, does not have a clean stopping signal. Researchers describe BFRBs as self-grooming patterns that have become excessive. They are not random. They are not irrational. They follow grooming logic. The problem is not the logic. The problem is that the environment has changed and the logic has not. Your face is not the parasite-covered survival surface your ancestors lived with. But your fingers still scan it like it is. So why do some people do this far more than others? Part of the answer is sensory. Psychologist Fred Penzel, who has studied BFRBs for decades, identified several features that make skin, hair, and nails particularly powerful targets for this behavior. They are always accessible. They are extraordinarily rich in nerve endings. They are highly sensitive to touch, and they regenerate. The supply of material to engage with never fully disappears. The body is an infinite grooming environment. Part of the answer is also emotional. Research consistently finds that these behaviors tend to increase under two specific conditions: when a person is overstimulated and looking for a way to release tension, and when a person is understimulated and looking for a way to generate input. In both cases, the behavior regulates. A hand moving to the skin is a hand reaching for something familiar, something the body knows how to do, something that has been wired in since long before conscious thought was possible. And here is the part that almost no one considers. When humans lost their fur, they lost something else too. Other primates groom each other. They run their fingers through each other's fur, pick out debris, scan the surface of another body for problems. That contact is social. It creates and maintains relationships. It is, in many species, the primary bonding behavior. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar at Oxford has argued that as human groups grew too large for grooming to work as a social technology, language partly took its place. Conversation became a way of grooming at a distance, a way of maintaining bonds without needing physical contact. But the hands still remember what they used to do. Self-grooming, which all primates also practice, became the default. When there was no one to groom you and no one to groom, your fingers turned inward, to your own surface, to the thing right in front of them. In its mild form, this is not pathology. This is what the system does when the original target is unavailable. Here's the part that almost no one talks about. The behavior is not the same for everyone. It differs across cultures, across individuals, across situations. But the underlying architecture is shared. Children do it earlier and with less inhibition. They pick, they peel, they eat what they find. Disgust around these behaviors is shaped by development, experience, and social learning. It builds gradually, and it is never complete. The impulse comes first. The social layer that suppresses it comes later. And that social layer is never fully successful, because the impulse was built into a deeper part of the system than the part that learned to be ashamed of it. Think about what that means. Almost every adult who picks, scratches, bites, or pulls does it in private, away from other people. In bathrooms, in cars, alone at a desk. That concealment is not because the behavior is wrong. It is because at some point in childhood, the social world told you it was disgusting, and you believed it. But the behavior predates that belief by millions of years. The shame arrived recently. The hands were already there. Here's what all of this adds up to. You are not the only one who does this. The behavior is extraordinarily common. Most people simply do it privately, then pretend they don't. The shame is modern. The behavior is ancient. Your fingers have been trained over tens of millions of years to scan the surface of your body, find irregularities, and remove them. They were rewarded for doing it with small biochemical signals that made the behavior feel satisfying. They were reinforced by the fact that it worked, that it kept animals clean and healthy and alive in environments where that mattered enormously. That system runs in you right now, and the thing you call a bad habit is just that system looking for something to do in a world where most of the parasites are gone. You didn't develop this. You inherited it. The urge to pick is older than language, older than clothing, older than the concept of being embarrassed about what your hands are doing. Your body is still scanning, still finding, still reaching. It's just that the thing it was built to remove isn't there anymore.